Hello and welcome to our Guardians and Shaper guide. My name is Chilifreak.
And I'm Crispy.
In this video, we'll teach you everything you need to know about the Guardians and Shaper boss fight mechanics, which can be useful for every build out there. We will also explain how to stun them with our latest build, Stun It All. Since the Minotaur Guardian is stun immune, it will not be covered in this video. For more information on this build, please watch our stun montage and build guide first. Let's start by explaining how it can stun tier 16 and above. Step 1. Get a Necromancer Aura support. Our recommendation is the Legend of Aura build, which you can find a link to in the description. However, we decided to make some changes. First, we made some modifications to the skill tree for increased skill duration, and link to that tree is in the description. Additionally, we got 3 Series Rain Jewels, which increase the duration of all our Val Auras. Finally, we got a Blood of Corruption amulet for the Val Aura, Gluttony of Elements. It gives us and all our allies immunity to elemental damage, which is very useful for the Phoenix and Hydra bosses. Thanks to our Ascendancy, passive tree, and our Series Rain Jewels, Gluttony of Elements lasts for 15 whole seconds. Step 2. Get damage flasks. The most important are Series Promise and Lion's Roar, because they give the highest damage increase for the lowest price. Taste of Hate or Sin's Rebirth are also very good flasks, although they have a much higher price. Step 3. Use Val Lightning Trap on the Guardians to shock. This will make the bosses take 50% more damage per hit. It makes stunning them easy and the fights shorter, so our flasks won't run out. Sadly, Shaper is shock immune, so you'll have no use for Val Lightning Trap on him.
Step 4. Use Orb of Storms linked to Curse on Hit and Warlord's Mark. This will have 2 effects. First, you'll add an extra 4.4% chance to stun on top of a stun chance. This is very useful on Guardians and Shaper because they have such large life pools. Secondly, it makes our totems leech, making them less vulnerable. The final step is to just replace your increased area of effect in your chest plate with concentrated effect for more damage.
Out of the 3 Guardians we'll cover today, Hydra is the easiest one, with a total of 10 million HP according to our estimation. Hydra is the Guardian representing cold. In the boss fight, everything in the area deals cold damage. Hydra cannot be chilled, poisoned, or frozen, but this doesn't affect us. When entering the area, you will encounter ice spheres that deals around 3.5k damage to us. These are environmental, not mobs or cast by monsters. They're just like the traps in the labyrinth. But there are safe spots where you can avoid them. The Hydra can use Fork Arrow that has the capability to one-shot us. Also, it uses Barrage, which can kill us as well. After some fighting, Hydra will blink arrow away and spawn monsters that cast Vortex on death, chilling you. When returning, she will always attack with Fork Arrow. When rolling your map, try to avoid physical damage reduction, Enfeeble Curse, increased elemental resistance, and increased life mod, as they all make stunning more difficult. This applies to all Guardians.
Here's a deathless Hydra clip. We're going in synchronized to avoid the ice spheres. As you can see, the stunner still gets hit. However, the stun starts as soon as the stunner uses his flasks. Although we made some mistakes, we still got a perma-stun that lasts the entire fight. This was done using non-legacy phase breakers with a 793% roll. Let's look at the boss fight again and assess some of the key points necessary to understand the Hydra. When encountering the boss room, we'll have a 10-second grace period. That means that we're immune to all damage. During this period, the support has to be ready to move as soon as the stunner runs. The stunner activates his Quicksilver to get as fast as possible to the Hydra in order to drop his totems. As soon as he presses his damage flasks, the stun will start. Only Series Promise and Lion's Roar were needed to cause a stun lock in this fight. Since our stunner was damaged, the support gem melee damage on full life had no effect, causing 33% less damage. Despite this, we get a stun lock. The stun lock is the signal for the supporter to activate Val Haste. The boost to attack speed makes the stun lock more reliable and reduces the length of a boss fight. Don't be afraid to activate it too early, it will last throughout the entire boss fight. The aura support only needs to consider one more thing. If a stunner or the totems take damage, the aura support must activate Glutton of Elements. This was however not done during this fight and it still worked out perfectly. Moving on, we can see that the stunner drops a Val Lightning Trap. This shortens the boss fight and makes the stun lock even more reliable. Both the stunner and the supporter quickly found the perfect positions where they avoided contact with the ice spheres. When a totem gets killed, the stunner just casts a new one. If Glutton of Elements would have been activated, the totems would take no damage. Also, Orb of Storms gets cast very late in the fight. It enables the totems to leech, so they don't die.
To summarize what we've said, mistakes were made, but thanks to the huge margins during this particular fight, we still got a perfect result. The second Guardian, the Chimera, has about the same life pool as Hydra, around 10 million HP. Chimera cannot bleed, cannot be chilled, frozen, nor poisoned, but it sure got a lot of noob traps. Let's go over them. Flicker Lance. The Chimera teleports directly to the target and spears it, causing it to bleed. You can see this attack coming when the Chimera leans backwards. Flicker Attack. Chimera teleports to the target without any warning, but with low damage. Combo Attack. Chimera quickly cleaves 2 times and ends the attack with a spinning slash. It really hits you hard, so make sure to avoid his slash. Circle of Death. A red circle appears around the Chimera. It will attack all targets within the circle until they are eliminated. This can be cancelled either by stunning him or by leaving the circle.
It's the circle of death. It could kill us all.
Hide and Seek. The Chimera disappears into foggy clouds that spawn all over the boss arena. For as long as he is hidden, he will continue to attack you. To cancel Hide and Seek, you must find him by searching through the fog. Add-ons. The Chimera has 3 add-on phases that activates for every 25% of his life lost. They occur in the following order. Hellions. These mobs can only melee attack. The unique boss can use Molten Core, which hits really hard and causes high degen. Snakes. The snakes can either hit you with a melee attack or their chaos projectiles. The unique boss has a multi-projectile attack with a powerful poison on hit. Goatmen, the easiest of 3 add-ons. The Goatmen leap to you, but by constantly being on the move, it's easily avoided. The unique boss, in contrast, is very stationary and will slowly cast spells towards you.
Let's look at the Deathless Chimera battle. Almost instantaneously we get a permastone that lasts until Chimera is at 75% of his max life, triggering the first add-on phase. No flasks needed. Skipping the add-on phase, when we kill the unique Hellion, Chimera respawns and activates his Hide and Seek. After he's discovered, we get a permastone again, and the second add-on phase begins. When Chimera respawns, he flickers to one of the totems, tries to activate his Circle of Death, but is interrupted by our stun that lasts till the next phase. The Chimera returns again, he uses his Hide and Seek, followed by a Circle of Death and Flicker Lance. He ends with a combo attack before getting permastunned for the last time.
Let's reassess the boss fight in more detail. As in the Hydra fight, entering synchronized together is very important, but before running, the support should maximize his block chance via Desecrate and Bone Offering. After casting the totems, Chimera gets permastunned right away, without the usage of flasks. To make the stun more reliable, the stunner drops Orb of Storms, and afterwards Val Lightning Trap. The opposite order is preferred, Note that, as soon as the Chimera reaches 75% of his health, the add-on phase begins, regardless if he is stunned or not. Therefore, our recommendation is to reposition your totems at each half of the arena, and place yourself in between them, as soon as the add-ons spawn. When the unique mini-boss spawns, place your totems right next to it. The mini-bosses are the most dangerous part of the entire boss fight. Don't underestimate their damage output or degen effects. Get a perma-stun right away. As soon as the add-ons are dead, the stunner repositions his totems in the center of the arena, together with Orb of Storms. After a couple of seconds, the Chimera respawns in the center, instantly using hide and seek. This can cause panic, as you can see, but a systematic approach where the stunner and supporter takes one half each is the fastest and safest way of handling this mechanic. Use your Quicksilvers. Chimera is discovered, and we get a perma-stun without DPS flasks. Shortly after, the second add-on phase begins. This is also dangerous if you're not prepared. Anti-poison flask can be useful if you're struggling with this phase. Prepare for the third phase as mentioned before. The Chimera respawns, flicker strikes one of the totems, and gets stunned. The third and last add-on phase is by far the easiest. The mini-boss hardly moves and activates spells that are easily dodged. Like all the rest, he is easily perma-stunned, and the final phase of the battle begins. The Chimera respawns, activates his hide and seek, but luckily, we found him instantly and achieved a stun lock, despite his futile resistance. This battle shows very clearly how butter smooth the Guardians can be, together with the support. Phoenix is the last Guardian we'll cover today. He has approximately 15 million HP, making him harder to stun than the other Guardians. He is the Guardian of Fire, thus he cannot be chilled, frozen, or ignited. Phoenix is very dangerous, but not if you know how his mechanics works and how to counter them.
Let's go over what the Phoenix can do. He can spin attack. This is a high damage attack that one-shots you. The fight starts with this attack. He can self-explode! The Phoenix stands still and charges up a devastating explosion. You will die, so take cover. He can even default attack. But don't worry about it.
When the Phoenix takes damage, bird add-ons will eventually spawn, together with environmental fiery whirlwinds. Map mods like additional projectiles and chain make the birds more dangerous. It is possible to avoid their attacks, but a much easier way is nullifying them with Gluttony of Elements.
Now let's look at a Deathless Phoenix battle. We're running in together to avoid his spin attack. Lagging behind is a death sentence. The stun lock starts as soon as the DPS flags are used and is kept throughout the entire fight. Now the chain mod on the map makes the birds a bit dangerous, but finally, when it was activated, Gluttony of Elements make their attacks heal us, instead of damaging us. So, do you get why it's so important?
Sorry man, I forgot.
Beyond the supporters' mistakes, we don't really need to go more into detail. So let's move on.
No. There are definitely more mistakes we need to cover. The totems were faulty placed in front of the spin attack and were destroyed. To avoid this, the stunner should have waited till after the swirl. But because of his mistake, we missed our first opportunity to perma-stun, resulting in a self-explosion and another spin attack. Well, thankfully the stunner used the DPS flask, so we got our stun lock.
The stun lock was enhanced with using Val Lightning Trap, Orb of Storms, and Val Haste. In this instance, the add-ons came faster than expected, and also had chain from the map mod, making the stunner take damage. If Arbot had done his job properly, he would have activated Gluttony of Elements earlier.
Well, 1.5 seconds after you were injured and Gluttony of Elements was activated, you can clearly see that one hit of the birds is enough to heal the stunner up to full health. Yeah.
For the rest of the fight, the stunner only needs to think about using its flask resourcefully, and reapplying Val Lightning Trap and Orb of Storms if needed. So the take-home message from this fight is to run in synchronized, place your totem in the right moment and use Gluttony of Elements when the birds spawn. Now we've come to the final boss, seated in the epicenter of a universe, the Shaper. The Shaper boss battles consist of multiple phases. When you enter his realm, you'll spawn in the center of a map that has 4 pathways leading in different directions. Each path leads to a mini-boss that is randomly chosen from one of the Atlas maps. It could be anything between Piety, Brutus, and that shitty squid from Crematorium.
Each of the bosses has to be defeated before you can face the Shaper. His arena will be accessed via a portal in the center of the map. Upon entering, the Shaper will be located upwards. Walk up to him, ignore his stupid preaching, and let the battle begin. The Shaper has many different attacks. Beam. The Shaper channels a powerful beam with a static aim, lasting for the whole duration of 3 seconds. Will kill you. Black Spheres. The Shaper casts multiple balls, constantly re-aiming towards the player, in contrast to his beam. Will also kill you. Teleport Slam. Shaper teleports to the target and slams. Has a big area of effect and will one-shot most of builds. Use Quicksilver, Shield Charge, or Whirling Blades, and get the hell out of there! Vortex Magnets. Small environmental bubbles, homing towards the player, activating upon contact. This spawns a permanent vortex with cold degen. Try to activate them close to each other, in the periphery of the arena. Bullet Hell. Shaper teleports around in the outer edges of the map, shooting out 12 projectiles in a circle, dealing cold damage. To avoid damage, you have to stand inside the protective barrier cast by Zana. If Zana is dead, either TP out or YOLO. Add-on phase. Shaper creates a teleport that spawns monsters. You need to keep Zana alive in order for her to be able to protect you against bullet hell. Lasts for 25 seconds. When the Shaper has lost half of his life, he will teleport you to a randomly generated instance. It's very important to clear this instance and reach the boss at the end as fast as possible, for the Shaper will recover life till you return to his arena. When you've killed the Uncreated, a portal will spawn that leads back to the Shaper. In the second phase, the boss battle is the same as the first phase. The difference is you'll have your Val skills if you've killed enough minions. When Shaper only has 25% of his life left, he will again teleport you. Clear your path to the Unshaped as fast as you can and enter the final phase. In the final phase of the battle, the Shaper has a mirrored version of himself that can only use the beam and black spheres. When the real Shaper activates Bullet Hell or his add-on phase, his mirror disappears temporarily. The battle is over when you've killed Shaper. Let's show our Deathless Shaper run. First, we're going up against the mini-bosses. First boss we encounter is Olaf from Duressa's Arena. Next up is Piety from Act 4. The third is the shitty squid from Torture Chamber. Final encounter is with Brutus. As you can see, none of these pose any threat whatsoever, and we're almost instantly permastunned.
Now we can enter Shaper's Arena. After Shaper has his short speech, he will usually cast Beam. Or, as in this case, Black Spheres. Our stun starts very early when Atziri's Promise is active. The stun lock lasts till one of the totem's lifespan ends. Shaper activates his add-on phase. Afterwards, Shaper channels his Beam and is temporarily stunned. When free, he attempts to teleport slam but fails due to being stunned again. With only half of his life remaining, the first phase is over. We clear our way to the boss as fast as possible to prevent Shaper from recovering life. The boss at the end, called the Uncreated, is very easy to handle, even if you don't stunlock him. Therefore, we save our flasks for the Shaper fight, even if it allows the Uncreated a couple of attacks. When it is killed, we re-enter Shaper's Arena for the second phase. In the second phase, Shaper uses his Black Spheres and is stunned directly afterwards. This is the longest stun we got in the fight, lasting for about 11 seconds. Pretty insane if you ask me. Here, the first bullet hell activates. We were unfortunate and also had a vortex magnet chasing us, but luckily we triggered it in just the right spot and managed to survive. The bullet hell ends abruptly when Shaper fires his beam, and then slams. The second phase ends with Shaper spawning his add-ons. Same rules apply for the second instance as the first.
Now we've come to the final phase of the boss battle. Due to recording issues, there is only footage from the supporter's perspective. Here, we have to deal not only with the Shaper himself, but also his mirror. Bullet Hell is activated and the stunner gets a vortex following him. We barely managed to pull through this dangerous situation. After Bullet Hell is over, the mirror returns, making it hard to achieve a stun lock, since the stunner and supporter move around separately. The supporter almost dies twice in this fight, but manages to pull through barely to the final add-on phase. We never managed to stun Shaper before we could kill him. Now we'll go through the key moments on the Shaper fight in more detail and analyze why and why not we get the stuns. The stunner places his totems behind Shaper so that they won't get hit by his beam. The first stun lock is achieved early, using only a series promise. However, the stunner places Orb of Storms way too late, and the stun lock drops when the totems and flasks run out because the stunner didn't reactivate them. In the second Shaper phase, he just won't stop talking, babbling, on and on and on, so you might have to replace your totems continually. The stunner places his totems behind the Shaper together with an Orb of Storms. With the right flask management, together with the support's Val Haste, we get a stun of a whopping 11 seconds, almost enough to cover the whole phase.
The stun is cancelled when the totems run out. Instead of renewing his totems, the stunner felt like throwing a useless Val Lightning trap.
Since we don't have any footage from the stunner in the third phase, we can only speculate about what happened. Most likely the reason why we couldn't stun Shaper in this phase was because the stunner and supporter weren't together and mostly panicking. Needless to say, this was not a perfect Shaper run, but we were pretty pleased as this was our third Shaper attempt ever, and it brought us valuable lessons. Someone who is more familiar with this boss battle might be able to get more reliable stun locks, maybe even lasting the entire phases. In the second and third phase, permastuns should be possible with the help of Val Haste and the right flask usage. We can't deny that the flasks running out is a problem in this fight. However, we could use 2 sets of its series promise with Lion's Roar instead of 1 set of 3 DPS flasks. This would double the duration of our flasks, and still probably be enough to stun lock. In addition, if Gluttony of Elements had been used in the third phase, it would have protected the totems and us from the mirror and make a stun lock possible. So, it can be done, but the required effort is probably big. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment below or visit the forum thread for more in-depth discussion. Thank you for watching this video. If you want to support this channel, please remember to leave a like, share this video, and subscribe to keep up with future content. You can also check out our other videos. Have a good one, guys.
Until next time.